Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our Thursday night class. We're continuing with the story of Genesis. So welcome now. We are having a little bit of technical difficulty with the Facebook posts. We'll hopefully have that together for you next time. But right now, if you are sending me questions on Facebook, I will not see them. So I apologize for that. If you send it to me on the YouTube channel, which is either the Noachide World Center or the Inner Spark, then I will see your messages that you send me. But if you send it on the Facebook, we haven't gotten that technology fixed for this week. Some changes on Facebook, but we'll have that for next week. Okay, and if you are there and you are able to send messages to the chat, please do, so I know you're there and I can respond to your personal questions. Okay, so we're going to continue from where we were last time. Last time we had transitioned from the story of Abraham and Sarah, now moving to Isaac, Yitzchak, and Rivka. The last thing we discussed was Abraham realizes he needs to get his son Yitzchak married. We did that. Shalom, William, good to see you. He needs to get Isaac married, and he goes and he sends his trusted servant Eliezer, and we discussed that last week, and he finds a wife for Yitzchak, who was named Rivka. That is the daughter of his granddaughter of his brother. So now when we said last time how they figure out she's the right person, it says that Yitzchak brings her back to the house, back to the tent, and certain miracles happen that had happened when Sarah was alive, and then it stopped. And then it came back again when Rivka was brought into the house. What were those miracles? Good to see you, Carla. Good to see you. What were the miracles? Miracles were, one is that there was a candle that she lit that didn't go out, was there the whole week. There was another miracle that the bread, the isa, the dough seemed to always be very abundant, and there was some spiritual cloud that hung around the tent. And the significance of it is that when Rebecca is brought in, she is now the new righteous woman like Sarah was. Okay, so Yitzchak is now married to Rivka, and that's going to start the whole new process. Now, I want to say one other thing then that the Genesis talks about them. It says that Sarah had died, and Yitzchak, right, the son of Abraham and Sarah, he goes out to get another wife for his father, his elderly father, Abraham. And he goes to get a wife from them, and he brings back this woman named Keturah. Much discussion about who Keturah is. But I'm going to leave that for now. But I want to say that the woman there gives birth now to many different nations. There's other children that Abraham has. Even at his elderly age, this woman Keturah is able to give birth, and she gives birth. Good to see you, Basil, Jerry, Shalom. Good to see you all. So now, listen to this crazy thing, guys. Listen to what I'm about to share with you. The children that Abraham now has from Keturah, it says that before Abraham passes away, he gives them gifts and he sends them to the east. Okay? So what were the gifts that Abraham gave to the children, his children? He gave them gifts, it says in the text, and he sent them to the east. So the sages tell us the gifts that he gave them, it says in the Talmud, were shemos of tumah, names of impurity. It's a very strange gift to give your child. You know, get him a car, get him a computer, why do you give him a gift, a name of impurity? What could that possibly mean? Why would Abraham, who was so righteous, give him names of impurity? So I believe the following. Wealth, he gave them wealth. It says he gave them names of impurity. But let me kind of build off what Basil was saying to a certain degree. Why give names of impurity? What is that? What would that do? So let me explain what this is. Apparently what this means is that he gave them certain spiritual powers. Now, I don't understand this to mean that he gave them impurity in the sense that he wanted them to become impure. But he gave them a system to tune into spiritual powers, although that they were not relevant and not able to connect to the inner depth of the holiness. And that's why it's called names of impurity. It is spiritual power, spiritual gifts that he gave them, understanding how to make the world function, and they did this. And I believe why it's called names of impurity is because by giving that, he knew not, it wouldn't necessarily enable them to connect because they weren't capable of that, of connecting in the deepest way, as was going to be his son Yitzchak, Isaac, but rather it gave them a certain spiritual base to it. Now, based on that, I like to say the following. Good to see you all there. Good to see you, Dan. Good to see you. So I like to say the following, and this we don't know for sure. There's a bit of conjecture in this, but I think if you think about it, it seems to be pretty evident. It says he sent them to the east with these gifts. Okay, what was the east? He sent them to the east, to India, to that area of the world. It could be also, and this is a bit of conjecture. I don't know if I've seen this in a reliable source, as meaning a Talmudic source or anything like that. But the name Avraham, like in Arabic, is pronounced Ibrahim, Braham, and it could be maybe there's an association with the Brahmin, who were the leading caste in India, who had these certain spiritual powers. It is possible, and it would seem likely, that when Abraham sent his children from this woman called Keturah to the east with names of impurity, he was sending them with spiritual gifts. That was the powers that people developed in the eastern end of the world on certain spiritual processes. I think it's a very fascinating idea. Rights and prosperity, prosper and multiply. Yeah, I understand that, but then again, Rand, Basil, they have to explain them why it would be called names of impurity, and I think the reason we're saying is because certain spiritual powers. But if you think about it, you understand, a person who has certain spiritual powers, in a certain sense, that could sometimes mislead you, because if what happens is you don't tune into the source of everything, then it could backfire on you. So that seems to be what it was. Now, and this is important because, as we're going to see in today's session, Abraham really fathered many nations. We know that the Jewish nation comes from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We know the Arab nation comes from Abraham through Ishmael. We know now that, according to what I said today, certain powerful people in the East may also be descendants of Abraham. And we're going to see now the Western world as descendants of Esau, who is the grandson of Abraham, also will come from Abraham. We'll see it right now. Okay. Thank you for the lesson, too. Thank you. Very good. All right, now, so Abraham dies. He is buried, it says in the text, by his sons Yitzchak and Yishmael. Isaac and Yishmael. Very fascinating teaching the sages tell us here. If you look in the text, it says that who buried him? It says Isaac, Yitzchak, and Yishmael. And if you look when Isaac is going to die, it doesn't say Jacob, the righteous Jacob was first. It says Esau and then Jacob. The rabbis tell us from this teaching that we have from our tradition, that Yishmael, the father of the Arab nation, does tshuva, he repents at the end of his life. And that's why it says Isaac first, because Yishmael said, you go first, I'm second. Which is a very, very fascinating idea and what that might mean. But that's what happened, was that Yishmael, before the end of his life, we have many sources from the Talmud that teach us, and this is one of them, that he actually did tshuva, he repented before he died. Okay, now, so Yitzchak, Isaac, marries Rivka, and they can't have children. All right, they can't have children, and they're married for trying to have children for 10 years. They can't, and what happens is they start to pray, and they're each in their own corner. They're praying, and Hashem answers the prayer, and Rivka gets pregnant. Now, when she gets pregnant, she's got a problem, because there is this tremendous abnormal pain of pregnancy that you can't figure out. All right? And why can't you figure it out? Because something very weird happens. It says that every time she passed a house of idolatry, it was as if the baby was trying to get out. And same the other way. When she passes the house of study, as I mentioned to you last week, there were people from small groups, from from Adam down to all the way to Noah, then down to his son Shem and Aver, and they had a little school, a house of study, a righteous place. So when Rivka passed by them, the baby also wanted to come out. So the kid's schizophrenic. What's going on? I go by a house of idolatry, the kid wants to come out. I go by a house of holiness, the kid wants to come out also. What's going on here? So it says she goes to the prophet, who was the sages in the house of Shem and Aver, the righteous leaders of the generation. And what happened is she asks, what's going to be? And they say, you have twins. And one will be righteous, one will come out, one will be on top, one will be on the bottom. They'll never be in the same. When Jerusalem is raised up, this other place will be down. And when this place is raised up, Jerusalem will be down. And the two children in your womb are struggling and battling for control of the world. Whose will be imposed upon the world. So that's the news. So that's kind of like not such great news. It's half good news, but half not so good news. She gives birth to two children, as was told her. One comes out hairy. He's called Esau. What's the word Esau? The word Esau is the word asui, made, finished, complete. He came like a complete person. A lot of hair on him all over the place. He was red and hairy, so they called him fully done. He's cooked. He's fully baked. Called him Esau. And then his brother came out, and his hand was attached to the heel of Esau, as if a symbolism that he's saying that, I'm holding on. I want to come out first, and many other symbolisms of the heel and the battle and the struggle between Esau and the son Yaakov. Yaakov called Yaakov. One of the words is from the word heel. Okay, good. Edom, correct. Very good. That's right. It says that Esau, who Edom, he is called Edom. He is called red, but he's also called Rome. This is very big stuff. As a matter of fact, if you've ever been to Italy, it says there that Rome, which was named after its spiritual predecessor and leader, Esau, it says Esau is red. He likes blood. He's a warrior. His land is red. Fascinating. If you go to Italy, it's like red. You see this red clay. It's very okay. So that's called Edom. He's called Edom, and that will eventually morph into the place called Rome. It'll actually morph into Western society. Esau is the spiritual leader of Western society. I mentioned in one of the classes that from the Kabbalah, it says that if you take Esau's name and you spell it out fully, which in Hebrew is Ayin Shin Yud Vav, you flip the letters around, it actually spells the name JC. Okay? Yeshu, who was a Jewish person who began Christianity. That means that what? That Esau really is the forefather of the West, and therefore also the religion that's become Rome, which become the Roman Empire, which become Christianity. So really what we have here is fascinating, because then from Abraham came the father of the Arabs, the father of Christianity in that sense, Judaism, and this other power in the East. Okay, let's go on. Your mother is from Calabria. Oh yeah, and what does it look like there? I was in Italy. When I saw that, and I remember this teaching, it was fascinating to see how it's a red area. All right, now we're going to see about red Esau and what happens now. Okay, so this is a very, very challenging discussion now, and we're going to try to understand it. First, when they're kids, they're growing up, and you can't tell. Kids are kids. You don't really know. When they turn bar mitzvah, you see that they go into different directions. It says Jacob loved to study. He was a spiritual person, and Esau was a hunter. Okay, and the text says that Rebecca loved Yaakov, and Esau and Yitzchak loved Esau. Why do you love Esau so much? He wasn't a good guy. So the simple explanation is that Esau was fooling everyone. He was asking questions as if he was a righteous person. How do I tithe salt? Salt doesn't be tithed. All these things. That's true, but it's a much deeper thing. Tzayid befiv means he trapped him with his mouth. It means that the Kabbalists tell us that Esau had holiness potential in his mouth. It just what was called from the mouth outside. It didn't permeate to who he was. So Yitzchak, we'll see in a little bit, he kind of was hoping Esau would come around, and he saw a lot of good qualities in Esau. He wanted to bring Esau around, but we'll see he's going to be unsuccessful. They're growing up now, and what happens is that they start to separate. Esau becomes not a good guy. The day that he starts to go off and become not a good person anymore, okay, it says he committed 5 terrible sins. He killed someone. He stole his garments. He raped a nar murasa, a woman that was betrothed. He denied the world to come. He denied the rights of the firstborn. All these terrible things. And that, it says, was the same day that Abraham died. And the sages tell us Abraham died earlier than he was supposed to, because God promised him he would have a beautiful old age, and to see Esau as he went off and became a terrible person would have been so painful for Abraham that Abraham died. And that day, that was the day that Esau became his terrible self. Now, what happened was, so Jacob, it says, was cooking lentils. Why is he cooking lentils? In the famous story that Esau comes and he sees him, he says, "I'm exhausted. I had a busy day of killing and raping, and I'm exhausted." So he says, "Give me the stuff. What do you got there?" He didn't care what it was. Give me the red stuff. It was red. So I called him Edom, red. He likes red. Give me that red stuff. I'm too tired. Pour it in my mouth. Okay, why was he so tired? Because he had a very busy day of doing a lot of terrible things. But all he cared was the red, the external. Now, Yaakov was making red lentils. Why lentils? Because lentil is the food that we feed mourners. There are 2 foods we feed mourners. One is either lentils or one is eggs. And it's because it's round. It's round, that's the symbol that mourning, birth and mourning, is a cycle. It comes on the world. So when we come for the mourners, we give them the round, lentils. Or the eggs also. The eggs also don't have an entrance, don't have a mouth, which means the mourner is quiet. He's not supposed to greet people and talk. So Jacob was cooking lentils to feed his father, Yitzchak. Isaac was mourning for his father, Abraham, who died. Esau says, "Hey, give me some of that stuff." So he said, "Sure, fine. Open your mouth, I'll pour it in." He said, "Okay, fine. But you know what? You got to sell me your firstborn rights." Now, why did Jacob do that? Why did he trick him? Why did he do that? And the answer is, the reason why he did that was because he saw that this guy, Esau, should not be the firstborn, should not be doing the service in the temple. And therefore, since he denied it, didn't want it, and it says, Vayivez, the text says, he scorned the firstborn rights. He didn't care. I don't want to do the service in the temple. He says, well, what happens if you do it wrong? Jacob says, the person get punished. And so, I don't want that. Forget it. So he sells him his firstborn rights of serving God for a pot of lentils. Okay, that's the famous teaching. Let's see if we have some questions here. Let's see. Right, he killed Nimrod. Exact. Very good. Very good point. He killed Nimrod. Beautiful. I might have hunted before. Yeah, very good. You guys know your stuff. Very good. He killed Nimrod, and he stole Nimrod's garments, special garments that he had stolen back from Adam. Very good. Okay. Exactly. Very good. Now, so we're going to get back to the story of Esau and Jacob in a second, okay? Because we're about to see a very bizarre story, the blessings. So we're going to come back to Esau and Jacob in a few moments, and we're going to try to understand this very difficult topic. Yes, Victor, I see the chat now on Facebook. Very good. Okay, Facebook people, we're seeing your chat now also. Thanks to Victor, who put it together, who got us now the chat happening on Facebook and on YouTube. All right, good. Let's go on now. A little sort of almost like, it seems like a side issue a little bit, but it's very important to look at. Before we get to the story of the two brothers and the culmination of their battle together, it says in the text that Isaac went to live in a place called Eretz Plishtim, this land of the Philistines. Okay, we're the Philistines. We have a lot of trouble there today. That's the Gaza area, Gaza up to Ashkelon. It's on the western edge of Israel, and that at this time was controlled by Avimelech, who was the king of the Plishtim, was a nation that was there. And Yitzchak went to live there. And this is like a strange story there. This story starts out with, that he says like his father did, he said his wife was his sister because she was very beautiful. His people weren't fearing God. They might take her away and kill him. So he says that this is his sister. Rebecca's his sister. Avimelech realizes at a certain point where that it's not the case. And he says, okay, do. Fine. But then the text, what happens is it says that it's just a whole long discussion about Isaac digging wells. Okay, now on one level, you have to always remember anything it says in the Torah is true, in the actual sense and in the more metaphysical sense too. So on one level, yes, it's talking about Isaac digging wells. Okay. They represent different things. There were 3 wells, representing the 3 different temples. We had 2 that were destroyed. The third will not be destroyed. Different ideas of what it means. But as he's digging the wells, what is happening is the Philistines keep filling them up. They say, "Oh, these things are dangerous to people. They'll fall in the wells." They figure they'll fill them up, and Abraham takes Abraham's wells that Abraham had dug up. They fill those also with soot and close them down. And Isaac keeps pulling the wells out. Okay, so I understand on one level that this is a certain battle of a problem that is almost Jewish history. He goes to this place. They want to chase him out. He's successful, and they get jealous. They push him out. All that stuff. But what's the deeper meaning of the wells? So I want to explain something here. A well represents the idea of pulling out from the depth, bringing out some meaning. Okay, rain comes from above. Okay, and the well is where you have to dig down deeply and pull out the wisdom from within. So Abraham had dug wells. He had his way of explaining and teaching the Torah. Okay, Isaac had his way. Okay, and the people. Although Abraham's way was, even though it was fought, but it was well accepted in one sense, because Abraham was, as you said, the giver. He was inviting everyone in. He was saying, come in, and I'll feed you, and all these types of things. So Abraham's kindness kind of had a following in the world. As a matter of fact, he had many converts, that people that had gathered around him, before he even had his son, and started this movement with him. Where did those people go? So when Yitzhak came on the scene, they kind of disappeared. Why? Because Yitzhak's approach was very different. Abraham's approach was the giver. He said many times, the right hand. I want to expand. Isaac's approach was, I got to control myself and master myself and do the right thing. And it was all about control, about self-control. So people kind of thought, the Isaac system, not so crazy about it. I like the Abraham system. So the wells that were dug by Yitzhak, they filled it up. They said, we don't want your style, we don't want your approach. But what happened was, at a certain point, they saw how successful he was, but it wasn't the same type of draw. And you have to say, it's a fascinating thing because we hear tons about Abraham, we have tons about Jacob. There's much less about Isaac. Why is that? Because since Isaac's approach was what's called gevuros, limitations, structure, getting himself into a certain place, so you don't hear that much action from Yitzhak. Okay? Now, that being said, you got to remember that every one of the forefathers had to come to their completion. And this is true for every person. Let me explain how this works. Okay? Let me explain what this is. Right, did, exactly. Let me explain how this works. Every person needs to come to their wholeness. If you come from the side of chesed, of giving, like Abraham, then all his 10 tests were tests of saying no, din, limitation. Person's always expanding. Oh, wow, I love you, kid. You're 15 years old. Here's a Corvette. Maybe not so good. But you have to say no. So the giving of the process, if you don't balance it and say no, then sometimes it's not going to be giving. So Abraham's 10 tests are all on that, as we spoke about last time. Yitzhak is very different. His tests are actually not to go and do kindness. His tests are, in din, which is limitation, is to limit himself even more. What does he do? He becomes an offering. Abraham goes to slaughter his son. He says, okay, tie me tight so I won't move. He is all self-nullification. And what happens is, it's like splitting an atom. A certain point where you split it so much, gets so exact, it expands, it explodes. The way that Yitzhak becomes whole and great and starts to be the great giver is like this. If you start on the side of restriction, say, I got to do the right thing. I got to be careful. I can't do the wrong thing. I got to be careful, make sure I don't do the wrong steps. And then part of that is I got to make sure I'm giving properly. If I don't give properly, I'm not doing what I have to do. Then that itself pushes him to become the whole human being who is not only limitation, but he's also expansion. But he gets there the opposite way of Abraham. He gets there by controlling and limiting himself, so much so that to do exactly right, I got to become the great giver. That's going to be the process, as we're going to see in a few moments, of Yitzhak's life. Okay? His life, as I mentioned before, his word Yitzhak means Kates Chai, end of life. He is that limitation that expands into afterwards. All right, so that is the Yitzhak, and that's the little discussion we have. Very interesting portion talks about the Philistines, who I'm not going to get into it now, but they were really the exact opposite of him. If you look at the story of Samson, Shimshon, they said, let's bring the Philistines said, let's bring Samson into Tzachek to make amusement for us. The Philistines were jokers. They were clowns. They had no meaning of life. Yitzhak, the word Yitzhak means joke, laughter. He's also laughter, but he's in a whole different way. He's true laughter. Laughter is a beautiful thing when it's real. When it's illusions and delusions, then that's the Philistines. That's why Isaac has a battle with the Philistines. They are called in the text, they're called in many places the scorners. Okay? and the Leitzanim, the scorners, and they're about jokes, but not good jokes, bad jokes. Isaac, on the other hand, is Yitzchak, is laughter, but laughter that comes from understanding that what looks like the end is not, because I'm connected to a higher reality. Okay, good. That was the thought. Any questions, thoughts, ideas? Aggressive boasting. Not sure what that means. Passion can hurt a young man. Yeah, passion certainly can. Right? But a young man needs passion. That's in Hebrew, the word nar, which means a young lad, is from the word er. Er means to be awake, to be. So you have to have both. A nar who doesn't have that fire in him is not a nar. Now, a wise person, a zaken, an older person, is someone who's acquired wisdom, right? Gray beard. Zaken. What's a zaken? Zaken means old, also means a beard. And the sages tell us it's an acronym for Zeh Kona Chochma, that a person acquired wisdom. So wisdom is a slower process of understanding things. A lad, a young person, if he's not protesting and excited about stuff, that's not a good sign. At a certain point, it has to combine that with the wisdom to understand the balance. Okay. Oh, Philistines, aggressive boasters. Yes, they're boasters, and they're also called the scorners. That's what it says in the text. Hakelets. The text says in Proverbs, hit the scorner. It's talking about the Philistines, and the words keep coming up. They want to laugh, and okay, good. Now let's get, ladies and gentlemen, to a very challenging discussion now. Okay, we have a question or thought. Passion are important. How else can a young man give if he doesn't have the will to do, right? And an older person too. Yeah, the passion to do things is crucial. There's no will, nothing's going to happen. So it's true for everyone. Just that when a person gets older, they could temper it sometimes and understand how to balance it. But every human being needs passion and needs will. Okay. Now we get to a little bit of a complicated issue here. We said before we have Esau and Jacob. Okay? Two brothers. All right. We said before also that Isaac loved Esau. Now what happens is Isaac is becoming old, and he wants to go and give the blessings to his children, and he wants to give it to Esau. Esau is the firstborn. All right. So this is very, very strange. Now what happens is Isaac can't see; he's blind. How did he become blind? So there's a lot of different explanations. One thing is one of the things he saw at the Akedah, at the altar, when he was being offered. It says there, it's a very mystical concept of how this happened, but that began the process of his losing his eyesight. His whole approach in life, which was just complete trust in God, to nullify himself to God, is the approach of a blind man. A blind man can't go forward. He's got to put his hand on the person in front of him to lead him. So his whole approach in life is blind. But the text says also that Esau's wives would burn their incense offering to their gods, and the smoke kept getting into Isaac's eyes, and it blinded him. Now, according to that, so he should have known Esau wasn't the best guy. His wives are making this idolatrous incense offering. Furthermore, what happens is that Esau, Isaac's a prophet. Okay, so fine, he's blind, and we're going to see that's going to help in terms of the blessings. But Isaac himself is a prophet. He doesn't know who Esau is. Esau's fooling him really with these little questions. How could that be? So that's question one. I want to know, why was Isaac the prophet seemingly fooled, and going to give the blessings to Esau and not the blessings to Jacob? Now the problem really gets worse. Why? Thank you very much. So Isaac now. So that's question one. Why is he going to not know who Esau is? Now the problem gets worse, because what happens is that after he gives the blessing, now what's going to happen is Jacob is going to come in and sneak in and take the blessing. Rebecca is going to tell him, listen, I was told me prophetically, you have to go and take this blessing, and he doesn't want to do it, but he's got to do it, and he goes in and he takes the blessing. That's also a question we have to ask. Jacob's trait is called the man of truth. That's what he's called. And it says in the Midrash, it says that before he went in, he was saying a prayer, which is codified by David in Psalms afterwards. And the prayer was, save me from the mouth of liars. What do you mean? You're about to cause this trick yourself. And it can't be, because Jacob is the man of truth. So we have to answer that too. Especially when Isaac asks him, is that you? And he says, it is I, Esau's your eldest. That's not telling the truth. You still misled him. So the second question is, how could Jacob do it? All right, we have to get to that too. But after Jacob gets the blessing, so when he leaves, Esau comes in. When Esau comes in, so Isaac says, well, who are you? He says, listen, I'm Esau, your eldest. So he screams, he says, your brother came, I gave him a blessing. And so Esau says, did you not save me a blessing? And Isaac says, I can't give you any blessings. I made your brother your boss. He's your master. So what can I give you? If I give you something, then he's still going to own it. Now I want to ask you a question. If Isaac was fooled and thought that Esau was still righteous, didn't he still know Yaakov was righteous? Why would he not give him anything? Why would he go and say, okay, all the blessings are for this person in front of me? That doesn't make any sense. I made you slip. And then when Esau screams and yells, he gives him a blessing. He says, you have the fat of the land of Rome, Greece, Rome. He gives them blessings afterwards. So I thought you couldn't give him a blessing. How come he cries? You give him a blessing. And worse than that, at the very end of this story, it says that when Jacob was going to leave, when he was about to be sent off to find his wife, so then all of a sudden there's a new blessing that Isaac gives him. He says to him, listen, go to Padanaram, this place, and take a wife there, and get away from Esau, who was going to kill him. And he gives him a blessing. He says, may you have the land of Israel and descendants of Abraham. I thought there was no blessing. Where'd that come from? So these are the questions we have to answer today. Let's see, any questions here? Okay, did Isaac enable Esau? I hate saying that, but it reads that way to a layperson and doesn't make sense since he's a patriarch. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by enabled. It's a good question, Emma. I'm not sure what you mean by enabled him. Do you mean that like he was part of the thing? No, he was trying to affect Esau, as we'll see. But it is true to a certain degree that God did conceal from Isaac how bad Esau was, and we'll see why in a second. So I wouldn't call it an enabler, but there's something here that we have to get to, and we will in a moment. Okay, what else we have? We have a few questions. Esau had taken his wives from among the Canaanites. That's right. Okay, did Jacob have the same challenge this generation does, that he needed to stay attached to the truth in a confused world? Yes, we will get to that also. Emma, you're on a roll. Very good. Okay, all right. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a second. And Bowser said purposely at that Esau was emotional. Well, okay, so we'll see that too. All right, so those are my questions. Let's try to understand this very important topic. So again, let me just review the questions again. First question is, how could the prophet Isaac be fooled to think Esau's righteous? And why would he give everything to the person in front of him, ended up being Jacob? But why would he according to him, give it to Esau and make Jacob a slave to Esau? And if that's true, when he says, I have no blessings to give you, and then Esau cries, how do you give him a blessing? Give him the fat of the land. And if that's true, how come at the end of the whole story, the end of the Torah portion of this story, after Rebecca says, you better run away, Esau's going to kill you, And then Isaac says, go to my family and take a wife. And then he says to him, okay, you should have the blessings of Abraham, the land of Israel. I mean, where'd that blessing come from? That's the idea. Let's try to understand. So the fact is, I'm sorry, there's one more question. Maybe even more difficult than the whole thing. In the very beginning of the story, it says that what happened was that Rivka was feeling this pain because the baby was trying to run out when she passed the house of idolatry. It was Esau trying to go out, and the baby trying to get out when she passed the house of Torah study. So I don't get it. A person has free will to choose what they can become. How could it be that Esau, from the time he's in the mother's womb, he wants to go out to idolatry? It's the most fundamental thing in the world. A person's free will to make themselves righteous or not righteous. How can you say that he wants to go out in the beginning to serve idols? This is very, very difficult. Okay, let's try to understand. So now, I'm going to prove to you first that Yitzchak, Isaac knew exactly who Esau was. Not exactly, but he knew that he wasn't righteous. He knew that. And I'll prove it to you. If you look at the text, it says that when he told when Isaac told Esau to go and hunt for him, he said, listen, the text says, and based on the Midrash, it says, take your knife and take all these things. And the text has extra wording there, which the sages tell us. It said, sharpen your knife that you don't go and feed me non-kosher. Right? Because be slaughtered in a certain way. It's very painless for the animal to slaughter that way. He says to him, listen, go and catch a catch for me. Make sure it's not owned. Don't steal it. Like he starts giving these warnings as if like the kid is going to steal the stuff, he's going to feed him non-kosher, all these things. And then even when Jacob comes in and Jacob says, he talks in his nice voice, he says, please Dad, get up. And he says, how did you do this so fast? And Jacob says, because God helped me. So God helped you. Who are you? Right? He says, come here. Let me say that the voice is the voice of Jacob. When Esau comes in, he speaks tough and rough. So obviously, if Isaac recognized, he's mentioning God, he's talking nicely. This doesn't sound like Esau. He knew who Esau was. Okay? We have said before also that he became blind through the idolatrous incense of Esau's wives. So it doesn't mean he didn't know at all. He knew. He didn't know the degree that was hidden from him, but he did know. Okay? Now, so why do you want to give him the blessing? So I want to explain this why. There's two reasons why you want to give him the blessing. First of all, as we discussed many times, we said Abraham was the giver, kindness. Isaac is control, self-control, din, limitations. Esau has the same approach. Esau is also a person of din. Yaakov is not. Yaakov will see later what he is. But Esau is like his father Isaac. He is a person of control. The difference is that Yitzchak uses it to control himself. And Esau uses it to control and to power and to harm others. But there's a certain similarity in approach that the father sees in his son. And there's a certain kinship like that. Now, second of all, remember, according to Isaac, Yitzchak's rationale, you have to earn everything. So he doesn't want to give a blessing to the righteous Jacob. He wants to give a blessing to the person who needs the help. Because ideally, it's better to earn it and not get help. But Esau, okay, he's not so great. He needs some help. So those are the reasons why he wanted to give the blessing to Esau. Okay? That's the reason why he wanted to do it, even though he knew he wasn't perfect, but he said, no, he's got to get the blessings. He's the firstborn, and he needs the help, and he's got a certain approach that's very unique and can bring it out. All right, now, but it still doesn't answer the other questions. It doesn't answer how the baby wants to come out and serve idols. It doesn't answer all the issues of the blessings that happen afterwards. So let me try to explain this. Very beautiful idea the Hasidic masters bring here. So there's different approaches in life. Okay, There is something called the tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. The tree of knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden represented the idea of battling good and evil. Okay, it's a tree of knowledge of good and they're both together, they're battling. The tree of life is pure and connected to life. In terms of actions, there are those who go and do good things, right? And then there's something called FOMO, fear of missing out. The person who, if you want to get someone to come to an event, one guy you say, oh, you'll love it, it'll be great. One guy you say, no, you don't want to miss this. If you miss it, you'll lose out. There's different approaches in life. There is the person who is external, giving, extrovert, and the internal. Okay? There are different approaches. Esau and Jacob had to have two different approaches. Esau was the man of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He was the warrior. He was the man in the outside world. Okay, out there, pushing his thing, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He had the potential to deal with evil. Jacob was very different. Jacob was the person studying Torah. He was inside. He was the tree of life. That's who he was. He was just doing good. Esau was dealing with the bad, and Jacob was dealing with the good. But that doesn't mean that Esau was necessarily bad. It means in potential, he had a different potential. Okay? He had a different potential. Let's try to understand this. What was Isaac trying to do? What he was trying to do was to bring Esau into the Jewish people. He was trying to make a partnership between Esau and Jacob. The partnership was going to be like this. Esau, you take care of the physical world. You go and you get control of things. You make sure that there's law and order, and anything that's bad, you stop it, you put it down. Control evil and take care of the structure of the world. And you be a partner with your brother to let him sit and learn Torah all day. The tree of knowledge of good and evil and the tree of life. And what Isaac was trying to do was trying to build the Jewish people out of these two brothers. And he wanted to help Esau along in his mission. Okay, that was exactly what was happening. Just like later on. Similarly, when Jacob has his children, they set up one of the tribes, the tribe of Levi, has to go and they sit and learn Torah and they take care of the temple, and the rest of the nation supports them. That was a similar idea to what Isaac himself was trying to accomplish with these blessings. And that's what it means. It says that Esau wanted, when he was in the mother's womb, he wanted to come out when he passed the house of idolatry. He has free will. It doesn't mean he was going to serve the idol. What it means is he can come out and, God forbid, serve the idol. Or he can come out and say, this is wrong. So this is crazy. This is imagine a world where the Roman Empire would have been a righteous empire. A holy, righteous empire, partners of the Jewish people. Could you imagine such a world? We have a little bit of it. The text shows us there was a little connection between a Roman emperor whose name in the Talmud is called Antoninus. He's probably none other than Marcus Aurelius, who was one of the righteous, maybe the only righteous Roman emperor. Didn't marry his horse, didn't play fiddle while the place burned down. He was It says that he was a secret student of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who was the person who gathered and put the Mishnah, the oral Torah, to writing. And to make a historical moment here, that there was a point where the Jews had to take the oral Torah and put it into writing, and God set it up that the leader of the generation, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, was friends and also the teacher of the Roman emperor. And that was a time where that relationship almost looked right. But it wasn't, because Esau was not interested in being the supporting part of this religious experience of Jacob. Now with that, we can tie the whole thing together. That's why, I'll get your questions in a second, guys. That's why what happened was when Yitzchak gave the blessings. He first gave everything to who he thought was Esau. Why? Because from his point of view, Jacob doesn't need it. Jacob is going to sit and learn Torah. I'm making a partnership with you here. The physical external world is the world of Esau. That's what he needs. Jacob doesn't need that. He needs to go and to take care of the spiritual world, and Esau will help him do that. So that's why he says Yitzchak says to Esau, I can't help you. I got nothing left. Like, what do you want? You're not in the partnership. You're in the partnership. And he finds out he sold his birthright. He pulled out of the partnership. So Esau says, no, I don't want that. I don't care. I don't want the partnership. I just want some physical stuff. So he gives him the blessing. Fine. We'll have the fat of the land. That wasn't the blessing. The blessing was not just sometimes a person has a lot of stuff, it could be a curse for him. Having a lot doesn't necessarily mean it's a blessing. Having things that could be used in a certain way means blessing. Otherwise, it's not a blessing. It could be a curse. So when Esau says, okay, I don't want that. I don't want to be part of this whole relationship and godliness. And I don't want that. I just want a hamburger. Isaac says, okay, yeah, I give you that. And that also answers why at the end of when he's about to leave, when Jacob's about to leave, Isaac says to him, my God will give you the blessing of Abraham and the land of Israel. You know why? Because that was a spiritual blessing. You couldn't give that. A physical blessing, you should have sustenance. You should be able to do good things with it. That fine. But the blessing of the land of Israel and being the Jewish people was something that had to be earned. So what Isaac's really saying at the end to Jacob is, I realize that the blessing is obviously coming through you. You are the continuity of Abraham, and you will be the one that gets the land of Israel. That's what he was saying. Okay? Now he also asked a very hard question. How in the world was Jacob, the man of truth, lying? And the answer was he wasn't lying. It didn't look good in this world. This is called the Alma D'Shika, world of lies. And sometimes the person who's saying the truth looks to be the liar. Go listen to any politician. You'll hear the stuff you can't believe. The new world. Every guy who's called another one a Nazi, watch out. They're Nazis. It's a complete farce. Complete witch hunts and things like that. Insanities. So what happens is that you have this world that the people are pretending they're righteous, but they're not. They're phonies. So in that world, sometimes a person like Jacob, who's saying the truth, it doesn't look so good. But why was he saying the truth? Because what he was saying was, I really am Esau now. The original relationship that Isaac wanted was Jacob and Yishmael and Esau together, that Jacob was learning, doing the spiritual work, and Esau was doing the physical work. But at this moment, once Esau sold out, Jacob had to become Esau also and do his job. And that's what he says. He says, listen, you asked, Father, what are you really asking me? What's the deeper meaning of your question? Who am I? You're saying, are you the person who has to get this blessing right now? And the answer is yes. I have taken over Esau's job. I am Esau now. I don't want to say it in this way, but the deeper question you're asking is, am I the one who's taking care of the physical world in the spiritual way also? Yes. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, it's why amazingly it says afterwards that the next Torah portion is Jacob goes out in the world as into exile. Why is he going out? That was going to be Esau's job. He was the one who was going to go out into the world and deal with all this stuff. All of a sudden, Jacob, who is the Torah scholar, has to deal with the liars of Lavan and Esau, and he's dealing with all these problems all over the world. That wasn't supposed to be his thing. He took over Esau's job. And that's why the very also deep thing here, it says there, we have a very famous question. It says that Jacob, he married two sisters. Now, you have to marry two sisters. So, how did he do it? So it says that, the Torah wasn't given yet, And he saw that the Jewish nation was going to come out from his two wives, Leah, and we'll see, and Rachel. And he saw that, so he had to marry two sisters. But there's a very deep question here. The question is, if that wasn't the ideal way to do it, and Jacob was keeping the Torah already, why would it be that the structure was to marry these two sisters? It should have been that shouldn't have been the way it should have been set up. I know the Torah wasn't commanded, but he still was doing it as voluntarily. So here's the deep answer, ladies and gentlemen. The truth is that before the Torah was commanded, they were able to figure out what was the system and how the Torah, acting according to Torah, was the best thing. But Esau was really supposed to be part of the system. He was supposed to marry Leah. And if Esau would have married Leah and Yaakov would have married Rachel, then potentially Jewish people would have come from those. Once Esau sold out on his mission in life, and Yaakov had to take his mission too, he also had to take his wife. And that's what it means. It says that Leah would cry. People would say, "Oh, Rivka and Isaac have two kids, and Lavan has two daughters, and they'll marry each other. The oldest marry the oldest." And so she said, "Okay, what's the oldest? I'm the oldest girl. What's the oldest boy like from the other side? Oh, he's terrible. His brother's great, but he's terrible." And she would cry. Say, "I don't want to marry this guy." Why would she cry? And people said because she really knew she was his soulmate. But once he sold out, he was no longer in the system, and Yaakov now had to be the physical and the spiritual component. And he really realized that since the Torah wasn't commanded, now he must take over Esau's grand mission and marry Leah too, because she had the potential of the Jewish tribes inside of her also. Okay, there's some questions, comments, and thoughts. I'm sorry I couldn't see so well the questions as we were doing it. So I spoke a long time. I'm going to see if I can scroll down and see some of your questions. Can Esau still have a chance to do Tov? Yeah, very good question. So, it says that, yes, I mean, that's what we're doing right now, no? I mean, we're here, we're on the World Noachide station because exactly this, I mean, first of all, Esau has tremendous amount of converts. Some of the greatest converts come from Esau. That's what it means, the deeper meaning. There was cyber fever. There was the spark in his mouth. He had Meir, he had the greats. The greats were, a lot of the greats could converted. By the way, during the Roman persecution, there was a tremendous amount of conversion, because the contrast between what Judaism was and the senseless murder and cruelty of Rome was so stark. When Christianity came on the scene, so eventually that became, the Rome, because it was like, okay, so there's some morals, there's some things, but it's not as rigorous as the Jewish requirement, and then Rome went on that path. But there was so Esau. There's two things. One is the converts, and two is that it says yes that was what we're talking about right here. Is that people who are in the Western world right now and become righteous Noachides, they take on that role, and that's a very, very powerful thing. Very good. Uncle is a convert, right? So right. Awesome material, Rabbi Ingber. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, you're welcome. Is that why Jacob ended up having two wives? Yes, it is. Exactly. Right, exactly. Now, another question from Basil. And it bothered Jacob when he feared his sons. Feared his sons, making him a stench among the land. But indeed his sons upheld the law and dignity of the young sister. Yes, we'll get to that very soon. That is correct. We will get to that. You guys are on a roll. Okay, good. I'm glad we could talk on a deep level, and you guys are on the ball. Very, very good. So I hope it was clear. So basically, just to summarize what we got today, we entered into now the new process of the world of Isaac. And he said Isaac was about self-control. Look at what happened in the end. in the end, it says in the Zohar, the ultimate test was the self-control now, because he in his mind believed that the blessing should go to Esau, that Yaakov shouldn't get the blessing. He's a righteous person, and he has to make it on his own. And God withheld this from him, and then only at the end does he realize that God wants the blessings to go to Yaakov, and it was another aspect of self-nullification for Isaac. He again then said, Gam Baruch, yeah, the blessing should go to him, meaning that he said, okay, God said that's not the way the world should work. Okay, he's blind, like a blind person who puts his hand on the person in front of him, knows how to go. He is doing whatever Hashem wants, whatever God wants. He's self-nullification, the ultimate expression on the altar, and in this moment of the blessings itself, his whole philosophy, he has to say, okay, God doesn't want that, I nullify that. And now is the transition from Isaac now into the final one of the patriarchs, who is going to be Jacob. And Jacob is going to have many, many battles that we'll see, and with Esau, and these things, ladies and gentlemen, are playing out right in front of our eyes right now in the world. So we'll get to some of this next week, and great to be with you all, and I'll see you next week at 8:30. All the best. Bye.